So this little front segment that I usually do, I usually try to do something fun and lighthearted. It's gonna be a little different today. Um, you know that I try not to delve into politics too much on this channel. However, with what we're discussing today, it's going to be unavoidable that there will be politics. If I'm just going to come out and say, if you're a Trump supporter, this is probably not the video for you. I'm probably not the channel for you. But I just wanted to put that warning out there and let you all know that this one will at least touch on, if not get into more deeply, politics a bit, because we are going to be talking about how the previous administration made changes to my life and how I present myself, I guess you could say, the kind of person I was being during the Trump years. And this channel was started during the Trump years. So this channel's 3 years old now. And I just wanted to make people aware of what is going on and the fact that there may be changes in the future, and all of that is going to end up touching on politics. So if you don't want to hear anything about that, I'm giving you this warning up front that this is not a video you're going to want to watch, because that will be in there, and how those things affected my life will be in here in this video. Anyway, we're going to be getting right into the video right after this. So hello and welcome to Domytriesthis. I hope you brought your cuppa. Today's coffee mug is an Easter mug that was picked up by my oldest, as usual. As you can see, it's a bunny. He even has a little tail on the back. We've seen this. This is from last year, I believe, possibly the year before. And in our mug is a favorite. It is the PUKKA Chamomile Vanilla and Manuka Honey tea. I have double bagged it because I cannot remember if this was a tea that needed to be double bagged. I don't think so. So I might end up at the end of this, even on our limited time. As you all know, we do the look, I film the look first, and then I do the intro and then the ending, like right in succession. So as a result of that, the tea doesn't get as strong as usual in my videos. But at any rate, we're going to go ahead and give this a sip, and we will get started. Oh, I love the smell of it too. Now, this is an awkward cup to drink out of because of this, but here we go. Already getting the honey flavor, but we're just going to let it sit and cool just a little bit. Anyway, so today is a Bright Ladies, or actually not a Bright Ladies. It could be a Bright Ladies considering the look. It could be, huh? This is a Domy's Dragon Bite where I talk about various things, whether it's industry related or whatever. Today I wanted to talk about some things that may be going on, not so much with the channel, but with me. We've had a change in presidents, and we've had a change in, which means we've had a change in approaches to the pandemic and to some of the racial inequalities and things like that. And I needed to discuss some things because I see the possibility of changes coming in personality, I could say. And they aren't really changes per se. They are more like going back to who I am. The channel, I'm going to mention it frequently, the channel is 3 years old, which means it was actually started in December of 2017, and so it's heading into the 4th year. It's about, yeah, it's heading there. But that was after Trump had already taken office. So yeah, things happened, and having had gone through a process before, my previous mother-in-law was highly abusive, and I had to go through a certain process with that. But I think I've seen some of that same process here, where I closed up and protected myself a little bit, or a lot, depending. And after you get through that process, there is sort of a reverse of the process where you start opening up and you start dealing with the reasons why you had to protect yourself, and you start feeling more able to be who you are instead of trying to protect who that person is. So I see some of that coming, possibly. And I could see some people at some point going, she is acting a little different than usual. And so I kind of wanted to explain what happened before and what was going on and why things were the way they were when I started the channel and where we're at and why it could change going forward from here. So in addition to all that, we will also be working on this look, which I admit, when I first started it, I wasn't too sure about it. But now I think I like it. At any rate, if you're interested in the look and if you're interested in the story and you're still here despite my opening sequence discussing the fact that there will be politics, even though I try not to do politics on here too much, there will be politics. Just keep on watching. So this channel is just over 3 years old. I know. Amazing, right? And yeah, I was surprised. It started in December 2017. So technically, you guys have not seen me outside of a Trump presidency. How's that for fun? And I'll be honest, this Trump presidency has completely stressed me out. Completely. I am Puerto Rican. I'm Tano. So I'm a brown girl. Obviously, I'm a brown girl. And there's a lot of things that he said about us brown people that do infect me. So there was a lot of changes in how I felt, in my behavior, my personality, so to speak, since he's gotten elected. Since he got elected. The thing is, you guys have never seen me before that. So you don't know how my personality changed after that. We were already in the stress for me. I know some people really were into it, but the stress for me, Trump presidency, when I started this channel. And one of the reasons I started this channel was because I'm a writer and I was suffering so much stress at the time that writing was hard. And that's just being generous about it. Writing is a thinking thing, and my brain was just, it was just full. It was at no mas. We can't do any more with this. It shut down for the writing part of things. Thing is, shut down or not, brain shut down or not, I still needed to be creative. That's just how I'm geared. I much prefer creative pursuits overall. So I still needed a creative outlet, so to speak. I start stressing out when I can't create, usually when I can't write, but definitely when I can't create. So I decided to start the channel. But that means because it was created out of the stress of not being able to write and out of the stress of Trump, the Trump administration, you guys haven't seen me not stressed. And I'm serious about that. Even though I'm on here and I'm being pleasant and all that stuff, you guys haven't seen me without stress at all. So there are things that are changing already, and I'm thinking that there's quite possibly going to be some differences in personality, so to speak, because of those changes. And I just wanted to talk about all of that because I don't need people going, oh, well, she's just being so different now. There are reasons I'm different now. But let's talk about first what those stresses were and why they were a problem. So the biggest thing I can think of off the top of my head, I mean, it wasn't the only thing. There were so many other things too. But one of the biggest things was ice. Ice was doing these mass, I have to put more yellow over that. They were doing these mass pickups of mostly Latinx, Hispanics. But they weren't necessarily paying attention to who these people really were. We have Puerto Ricans who are American citizens. Puerto Rico is a territory, and people born in Puerto Rico are considered American citizens. So we also have, we have Mexicans, we just have a whole bunch that fall under that Hispanic, Latinx umbrella. And you cannot tell who's here legally by the color of their skin. And I don't like saying legally or illegal. I should say documented. You can't tell who's documented and who's not by the color of their skin. And so ICE was doing these massive, massive pickups across the country and putting them in detention centers. And there were stories of people who were here on legal visas or were born in Puerto Rico or had become naturalized citizens or whatever take you, that were also being detained for days or weeks. They were not being looked into as to whether or not their claims of U.S. citizenship was valid. And so in the process of trying to quote unquote keep us safe, we won't get in there, but trying to keep us safe, they were actually detaining legal citizens for days to weeks. A lot of them got sent back to countries they have never been in. They got deported. Not all of them. I'm aware that a number of these are unusual cases. They are not common cases, but we heard the horror stories. So one of the first things that was an issue for me with Trump was, holy shit, how do I even keep myself, keep my son, keep the rest of my family who all have brown skin safe in a time of indiscriminate looking at someone with brown skin and thinking they're undocumented. That was the first stress. I stopped going out walking. I used to walk, but I was afraid to walk. We did all of our grocery shopping late at night because I was afraid to go in the grocery store. This was before the pandemic. I was hesitant to go out to dinner with my husband if we could even afford it, which most of the time we couldn't. I mean, it put a real stressor on my life in terms of me being able to go out and do things and feel comfortable and safe to do that. And no American citizen should feel that way. But that's how I felt. I felt unsafe. And then, of course, there were all the other little things that were being done, basically, that made it harder on me and my family. But I think that was the big one right there. Just all that hate. And then we watched as the ACA was just... My medical insurance has been one of those issues as well. It's one of those things that's been a problem for a while. And I'm seriously hoping Biden fixes this. But when they started tearing down the ACA, they also made it quite possible for insurance companies to start going back to their old ways. And one of these things that we had in the last year during the pandemic is when our insurance company changed mid-year. I was paying $280 a month, and yes, that's cheap because that's what we could afford. But I was paying $280 a month for something that went from almost useless to pretty much completely useless. I'm making a mess of this. We're all prepared for a mess, right? So, like, for example, the old insurance before it changed, it was we could get 6 doctor appointments a year each. When they changed it, it went down to 6 total for the both of us. My son has Medi-Cal, or not Medi-Cal, he has Social Security, so he wasn't as big of a problem, although I think they were trying to get ready to attack that as well. So anyway, yeah, so the insurance has become an issue, and we ended up not using most of our insurance, and we got buried kind of deep last year and the year before, to be honest. And the insurance we had already wasn't that fantastic. So there were a lot of things that affected our lives that were seriously problematic and stressing me out. Just those are the big ones I can think of. But, being under constant stress like that, it's hard to be fully yourself. I don't know if anyone can even understand that, but it is very hard to be fully yourself. Now, just that's what it comes down to. So I felt I was. There's just so much pressure. That's just got to be it right there. There was just so much stress, and I know I withdrew, and I know I was crankier, so to speak, and I'm feeling threatened again. I'm feeling my family is threatened. I'm feeling my son is threatened, because the Republicans were talking about cutting Social Security, even though what we had wasn't enough. I mean, seriously, what my son gets really couldn't support him by himself. Period. I don't know how they expect anybody to live on Social Security. So we had all that going on, right? And then the pandemic hit. And everybody was stressing under the pandemic. But I'll tell you what, if you are in a position where you're already struggling to make ends meet, that pandemic really, you don't have medical insurance the way you need it. You're already scrabbling around to survive, I guess would be the word, on what few wages you have, on what little wages you have. And so they started talking about closing things down, and we were just like, wait a minute. Now, we knew we'd be getting unemployment. We didn't realize we'd get the expanded or bigger unemployment with the bonus money on it. Bonus money, whatever you want to call it. So when we were talking about all this, it was very concerning, because unemployment traditionally is only a portion of what you made. It's like 80% of what you made or something. It's never a full paycheck. And it's definitely not a full paycheck if you've been working overtime. And my husband, because he has to be the sole breadwinner, because I have to stay home with my son could not, I cannot expect my son to take care of himself. He needs his mama here. I mean, that kid would do nothing. I don't even know if he would think about food. I mean, just seriously, he probably would eventually, but you know what I'm saying. He can't be here by himself. He can't handle emergencies. Okay, did some cleanup and some reapplication here and there because it was a mess. But moving on, as I was saying, we were already on the edge, and they were saying that everybody was going to have to take time off, and the unemployment, I knew, A, wasn't going to last that long, supposedly, and B, wouldn't even be the amount that his paychecks usually are. So that began a new worry of kind of what do we do now, because we're not going to have enough money. We already didn't have enough money. So I will say that was one nice thing that got pushed through, was making sure that we had some extra unemployment benefits for a while. Not that they wanted to have those benefits be, you know, permanent or anything, not necessarily permanent, but you know what I'm saying, till the pandemic ended. But it did give us a bit of a lifeline, so that was one less worry. And then they started saying that everything needs to open up, and so my daughter and my husband went back to work, and that was another worry. So I spent most of the last 4 years worried and stressed for my family, worried and stressed about money, worried and stressed about our health. I mean, my husband, those earlier days, I mean, we still see it, but those earlier days of the pandemic were just a mess. Even when he went back to work, he had people in his job that came down with coronavirus. My husband was smart. He tried to be aware, and not only of his own health, but of the fact that if he brought that home, he had at least one person, me, at high risk. So bringing that home was a real problematic thing. I have asthma. I am overweight. And I have high blood pressure. So those things apparently can make the virus worse for you. And I was like, if I catch this thing, I'm going to die. So now not only did I have to worry about the times when I did go out getting picked up by ICE, which was also not doing a good job at, keeping the pandemic out of the detention facilities. I also had to worry about catching this virus and dying from it, and watching a whole bunch of people thinking that their inconvenience was some sort of oppression. It has been pointed out several times that if there's one thing that this pandemic has shown, other than the fact that our medical and capitalism is horrible for people in general, it's that we've managed to get to the point where nobody cares about anybody else. So I'm worrying about ICE. I'm worrying about finances. I'm now worrying about getting sick. I'm worrying about my husband getting sick. I'm worried about my son's Social Security. So I spent the last 4 years pretty much completely stressed the fuck out. Just, yeah, I can't even go in too deep about it. I was just so, and that made me, that made me more uptight and less flexible and things like that. And so you guys have never seen me outside of that pandemic kind of thing, that the whole thing. You guys have not seen me at all like that, without all of that in play, I should say. This is a mess, and I'm sorry, but it is coming from my heart. So I hope that you guys will be understanding at the messiness of this and how I keep going back and forth and going off topic. So I'm having to worry about all of this stuff, and like I said, I did what I could to protect myself. I became less open for the most part. I mean, I've been talking to you guys openly, but I'm under circumstances like that, I believe that you end up suppressing, whether you intend to or not, you end up suppressing a lot of your nature. You have to protect yourself, and being open and carefree and cheerful in a time of threat, well, I can't do it. I can't do it. Like I said, I've gone through times when I've been threatened before, and the same thing happened. Just, you shut down. You have to protect yourself. So you take those parts of you. Yay. My hair. I put on the extra one to try to keep some of my hair out of this. I have so many new little fuzzies. It's not even funny. But anyway, you try to protect yourself the best way you can. And part of that is taking the lighthearted, sensitive parts of yourself and trying to tuck them away. You want them to be safe. So these elections, these past elections, get under the nose. It doesn't want to get under the nose. These past elections have been, I mean, they've been a big deal to all of us, but I think you can understand why I would perceive them as a slightly bigger deal to those of us in the brown skin tone category. I voted for Biden in November, but in the primaries I did not. I actually was very worried about him being president, because there are so many things that we need done, and I didn't think he was the one to do it. I've been very pleasantly surprised by what he's done so far, and I don't think it's been enough, but at the same time, we are trying to stop the hemorrhaging. So stop the bleeding of this country, stop this pandemic, try to bring us back into being, there's still going to be racism and stuff like that, but at least try to bring it back to where we're not treating people like shit just because of the color of their skin or where they come from, or, whatever, that stuff. And he seems to be trying to do an honest and fair job at that. And he's trying to do what he can to mitigate I think mitigate's the right word, but mitigate the pandemic and try to get us out of it, with the vaccines and stuff. I haven't gotten vaccinated yet. We fully plan to. It's a matter of timing. Not just on being in a group that can get the vaccine here in Georgia. The group restrictions seem to be falling behind some of the other states. So, and I got it when we had to get first responders. I've been willing to just stay in the house, but the house is no longer in the house. This is a big house. It's an apartment. It's tiny. That's the other thing. I am claustrophobic, folks, and getting out on my walks not only helped me get my sunshine and helped me get my exercise in, but it also helped with the claustrophobia, because I could go out and be outside, and then all this other stuff came up, and all of a sudden I couldn't be out and outside, so that added to my pressure as well. And I suffer from SAD, so I wasn't getting the sunshine I needed. I mean, there was just so many things, so many implications of being stuck indoors, and not just because people are getting sick and dying, but because people are being asshats to people of color. And for no good reason, honestly. And when you have big concerns like that, it is very hard to be yourself. You're more withdrawn, you're more introspective, I guess. And so it was difficult for me to be myself. So this election meant a great deal about, for me, about more than just the pandemic. It was a lot about human rights and how we were going to treat our fellow human beings, no matter who they were. And like I said, Biden wasn't my first choice. I wasn't expecting a whole lot. And it's only been 2 months, and it feels like he's just absolutely blown my expectations away. I think he could have done more, but we're not going to get into that. I'm trying, folks. It's so hard not to talk about politics when you're talking about shit that affects your life like this. But, get in there. But the thing is he's done a bit more, and I can't say that it was in November that I started to feel relief. First of all, there was all of that stress about, would Trump go? Will he stay? And then there was the whole thing about, whether or not we were going to get the Senate. And so I can't say that I honestly started to feel less stressed until all of that resolved. Things are already feeling better. I no longer feel like I have to stay indoors because of ice. Let me tell you something, guys. That is a big one right there. I still don't go out much, really, because of the pandemic, for one, and for two, as much as I'd like to go out walking, I have a knee that's like, no. No. So there's a lot of things that have started to change. And then we don't know if it's going to affect us, but he expanded the unemployment, and he's just done a whole bunch of things already. And I was already feeling relief when he got elected, mostly because I didn't think Biden could be as bad as Trump, if that makes sense. I didn't think he would be, I figured he would be something of a humanitarian. Medicare for all would be a great thing, but even without that, I figured that he would see that we are in need, and he would do what he could to take care of it. So I am going to finish, do eyeliner and all that stuff, and then I'll come back and I'll try to wrap it up. I'm getting there. I know I'm being slow, and whole bunches of this is probably going to be cut out. So if it seems to come off a little weird with doing the makeup, I apologize for that now. But I'm going to go ahead and get my eyeliner and my lashes and all that done, and we'll be back. Alrighty, eyes done, ears off, because we no longer have to hold back the fuzzies. And we are moving on. I did have to do more repair. Probably may have to do a little bit more, but glitter glue for the win. Anyway, so it's I have to remember where I was, because a lot of things happened during that break. A lot of things happened. I think I was talking about what was going on since Biden and how I was impressed with what he had been doing so far. But the thing that's most important to discuss in all that is how I'm starting to feel and what's going on, like in terms of what's making me feel better, because I am feeling less threatened. I am feeling less less targeted, if that makes sense. And there's been some other changes that have been going on that have been good. During most of the Trump administration, I literally could not sleep. I was getting maybe 3 hours a night or 4 hours a night. When I did get more than that, it was extremely broken up. And now it's still a little bit broken up. I still end up going back. I still have some of those broken up nights. But now when it is broken up, it's like 3 hours at a time. So I can get 6 hours. I used to be able to subsist on 4, but as I've gotten older, that's not been the case. And so having 2.5 and 3 hours of sleep at night was really messing with me too. And now I am sleeping better. I have a Fitbit, and my actual numbers for sleep, they give you a sleep score. The higher the better. And my sleep score numbers have gone up. They're usually in the 80s now, when before they were like almost always in the 70s over the last few years. And of course, during the pandemic, all of that shit got worse. So that's gotten better. I don't feel like I have to stay inside. I do stay inside mostly still because of the weather and because of the pandemic itself and because I have a bum knee. But I feel like if my knee weren't a problem right now, I could go out and walk, which is really, really nice to be able to say and feel. So I feel a little safer. I feel my family is a little safer. I still worry about my middle daughter. She works at Kroger, and I shop at Kroger, and I see how those people go. How a lot of grocery shoppers go, which is to say no masks, and a lot of times the store managers do not feel safe in telling people to wear a mask. And so that bothers me, especially since in Georgia there is no mask mandate to my knowledge. Or if there is, it's not like there's fines or anything associated. I don't think. Kemp has been a Trump Republican, so you can imagine. You can imagine. But I am feeling safer in general to be able to go out and do things, and I feel less worried about my kids being out and working. I mean, like I said, for the middle daughter, I do have some concerns because, people aren't wearing masks at the grocery store and stuff. But other than that, I feel like things have gotten better. I don't feel targeted. I'm sleeping better at night. My appetite is still a little odd. It's still a little all over the place. But I think some of that also has to do with me trying to get back into my exercise and stuff. And that has been problematic because of what's going on with my knee. I don't know, maybe I need more glow. No, I'm fine. And so things are getting easier in that regard. I'm feeling less like I have to worry about stuff. Like, the stuff that we've been worrying about in terms of, just the things. All the things that I've mentioned. I definitely feel like we're a little safer and we're doing a little bit better, and we're less likely to be targeted, and we're going to get through this thing. That's what I'm feeling, I guess, is what I'm trying to get to. And that is just a big relief. And I've already noticed some changes in how I act, I guess. My behavior a little bit. I want something shinier. What do you say? I want I feel better about, give me a minute. I guess that's the easiest thing to say is I just feel better overall. Not as threatened. I feel like we can start doing things that we want to do. Oh, that's much better. That I don't have to worry about, ice picking me up or anything like that the way I did. We still have to worry about the pandemic, but it's not being exasperated by actually, oh, never mind. It's not being made worse by what's going on in other ways. There are still concerns. There will always be concerns, but I do feel like I can stop being so protective, stop being so armored inside. And that is a big deal, I think, in what's going on. So the question becomes, I'm sure, why did I bring all this up? Why did I talk about all this? Well, one, I am not sure anybody but other brown people understand what we've been going through during the Trump administration, the fear and everything else that has been, well, black people understand, but for different reasons. And two, I suspect, I'm not positive, but I suspect that there is going to be some changes in how I talk. That are still going to be me, but are going to seem different because it's likely to be stuff that you have never associated with me before. As I relax, as I become more comfortable again, as I become more certain of being safe, or I guess as safe as one can assume, or one can feel in a time when there's still going to be extraordinary racism being shown. But as I become more comfortable, there are going to be changes in the way I present myself, I suppose, or I'm assuming. A lighter, less reserved, less protective of myself. I don't know. I've always looked at other people on YouTube and gone, gosh, I wish I could be that carefree or that light, I guess. And honestly, that is in me. It's just I've had to protect myself. Another one that's not doing much for it. We tried. So I'm not doing, so I don't want people thinking, oh, she's trying to get the views or whatever. It's more like, oh, I can be myself. I feel more comfortable being myself. And it has been hard, very hard, to be myself of late, you know? That is what I am thinking. Now, I may be wrong. I may still be the same uptight person you've seen. And I know some of you will say, well, you've not been uptight. Trust me, I've been uptight. I have been tense. I have been fearful. I have been a lot of things. Here we go. Just this bit of gold in the middle. Not that you guys can see it very well, I don't think, but I can see it. It makes me happy. So I just thought that before any of that becomes, you know, an issue, a problem, somebody saying, why are you behaving so differently? That might be a good idea to see where I came from. And why I have been the way I've been for the past 3 years of this channel. Alrighty, so before we get into too much more of a wrap up, here is our completed look. I did do some of it off camera, so to speak. I did do a few fixes, but here it is. Now that it is all put together, I'm not nearly as... I'm not sure about this. I actually think that fairly well works. We are having issues on the inner corners, but that has more to do with my eyes than anything else. And the fact that I used ColourPop instead of, say, Violet Voss. Although, considering today, Violet Voss may have had a problem holding up as well. I did end up going with a blue underneath. I used blue for my eyeliner too, but I think the two work fairly well together. Actually, I went with a green. What am I saying? There have been a lot of distractions during this thing. We have things going on in the house. Or a thing going on in the house that I'm not going to bring up right now. But I went with a green. And the ombre I wanted to do with my lip didn't quite work out. They never quite work out. I think I need to figure out how... Basically go with a much lighter color for the inner part of the ombre and keep the darker colors for the outer part. I think that's where my biggest issue is. But overall, I think the look came out fairly decent. I'm pretty pleased with it. So, and by now you've seen it at least once, possibly twice before this. Things. Anyway, so at any rate, I just wanted to get all of this out there because if you do see a more lightheartedness, or if you see something going on that's different than you've seen before, it's in terms of how I'm behaving and talking and the kind of jokes and things that I do sometimes. Honestly, I'm one of those people who tries to be funny and nobody laughs, and when I'm not being funny, everybody laughs. I don't get it. But at any rate, guess I just don't do good jokes. But at any rate, if you start seeing some of that, and I start seem to be a lot less restrained, let's go with that. I think I've been fairly restrained. And a lot of people have said that they really enjoy the fact that I am not, you know, rambunctious. I will go with that, the way a lot of YouTubers are. But I do want to just point out that what is going to be happening, because I've gone through this process before, as I mentioned, isn't going to be because I'm going for looks or for likes or for subscribers or whatever. It is going to be a natural part of coming back into who I am, who I've always been. But over the last 4 years, a lot of that got suppressed in the process of protecting myself, protecting my heart, protecting me, you know, my psyche, and trying to close up so that being stuck in the house, not just because of the pandemic, but because of other concerns, or being worried about the finances, a lot of those things are still going to be here. A lot of those concerns are still going to be here. But it's not going to be as prominent, and it'll get closer to what I was used to before we had President Trump. And I mean, they're to my knowledge, they've already told ICE to knock it off. I'm going to go with they've told ICE to knock it off. And so there's less concern about that now. And we've been floated through the year in terms of finances. So even though my husband has lost his second job, we are still covered for the part that second job was taking care of. So it could be better, but it's not horrible. So there are these reductions in stress. There's these looking forward to things like putting a lot of the stuff that Trump took out of the ACA back in it. And hopefully that means that my personal insurance will also get better. So things like that, those concerns are becoming less of a stress. I mean, the stresses are always going to be there. That's just life. But it's going to be less of I need to protect myself, because I will be more used to, I'll be going back to what I'm more used to, if that makes sense. Hopefully it'll be better. But if not better, at least it won't be what it's been. Like I said earlier when doing this thing, I'm sorry if this is rambly and doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and I'm just talking about all the things and they're going back and forth and whatever. But like this is coming from my heart, and it's very hard to stay in a lane and linear with that. And I just hope that you all understand that that's where it's coming from. It's coming from my heart and what I've been experiencing. At this point, I'm feeling better. I'm sleeping better. I'm finally feeling capable of writing again. I'm finally feeling capable of working on getting back to exercise again. The only thing that's a problem there is my knee, and I've found ways to work around it. And so it's going to take time. It's going to have to build and go. It's just a slow process. It's going to be a process. But I just wanted people to be aware that at some point they may look at me and go, this is not the person that I subscribe to. And I swear to you, it was. It is. But I just had to protect myself. And I've had to just put on armor and keep myself, my psyche and spirit, as safe as possible during a time that was very dangerous for me and my family, So anyway, so like I said, this is our look, and I hope you like it too. And that is it for the day. And I hope you like what you've seen. It sounds odd to say that with such a deep and heavy subject that I probably just didn't cover well for me. I can write. I'm not a public speaker. But hopefully you liked it enough that if you're not yet subscribed, that you will subscribe. If you do subscribe, or when you do subscribe, please hit that notification bell so you know when I upload. I currently upload 2 days a week, and that would be Monday and Thursday. However, we have bonus videos. We've had at least 1 or 2, possibly 3 this month alone, depending on when this one goes up. I've got one more I'm filming in a minute. It's going to go up before this, so you know what? March isn't over yet for me. This might go up at the beginning of April, but March isn't over yet for me, so who knows? A lot of March ones have gone up so far. Quite a few. And so we have indie brand openings, and my son got to open his first box from my Geek Fuel, and I think it was Geek Fuel, and he will be doing those again next month as well. And if you send anything, that is also a bonus video, but you don't have to send anything. And if you don't want it to be a bonus video, just let me know and a little note in your package. Or you can join the Dobby Tries This Facebook group, which is listed down below. And you can let me know there that you have a package on the way and you do not want me to open it on the channel, and I will honor your request. However, if you're interested in any of that, they do not go up on regular upload days. So even though YouTube no longer emails you when a new video goes up, at least it doesn't me, you will need to have that bell clicked, and to know when they're available. If you're part of my notification squad, please check both your bell and your subscription to make sure they're both still active. I haven't had any problems with that, but I have heard rumors around where people have had issues. So check those to make sure they're still on there. And if you choose not to subscribe, well, after this video, I could understand it. They're, like I said, politics. I do normally try to stay away from politics, but of course, by the time we've hit this point, you probably already walked away, not watching this anymore. And that's understandable. And I would understand if you don't subscribe at this point, if you just choose not to. However, you're always welcome back here. And when you do come back again, don't forget to bring your cup of tea. All right, so this has sat here 10, maybe 15 minutes for the opening and the ending. We don't do this during the other part. Gonna take a sip and then we will be on our way. Ah, there she is. And yes, it probably could have done with just one tea bag. Although it is a bigger mug. It's still really hot. At any rate, that's it. Hope you have a good one.